Ever think about how the decisions made on the other side of the globe, like way over there, could impact something as simple as how much you pay for your morning coffee? Today, we're diving deep into the world of global currencies, or, more specifically, how China's economic activity can send, well, ripples, I guess you could say, that reach all of us.
Yeah.
China's economic growth has been pretty dramatic, wouldn't you say?
For sure.
But what's the real impact on a global scale?
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to currencies.
Well, I think about it almost like a ripple effect.
Okay.
Every transaction, every investment, it's like it sends out this ripple, and all these ripples, they kind of intersect, and it creates this these complex patterns in the global economy.
Right.
And China's growth, particularly in manufacturing, I mean, it's turned it into this powerhouse.
Yeah, it's definitely
driving a lot of those ripples. And I'm not just talking about cheap toys anymore.
No, definitely not.
We're talking about sophisticated electronics, vehicles, even really complicated machinery. Back in 2010, China actually overtook the U.S. to become the world's largest manufacturer.
That's incredible.
It's a huge, huge shift, right?
That's a seismic shift.
I mean, the global economic landscape.
So we've got this manufacturing giant.
Right.
But how does that muscle actually translate into influencing currency?
Oh, good question.
I know our sources mention this term exchange rates. And I'll be honest, that's always kind of sounded like financial jargon to me.
It is kind of jargony, right?
Yeah.
But it's actually pretty straightforward.
Great.
So let's say you want to buy a new smartphone.
Okay.
One of those really nice new ones, probably assembled in China.
Right.
The price you pay, it's not just about the parts and the labor that went into that phone.
I see.
It's also affected by the exchange rate. So let's say between the US dollar and the Chinese yuan, right? Right now, China's this massive trading partner, for so many countries.
Yeah.
So the value of the yuan, it matters a lot.
Yeah. This is where it gets super interesting to me.
Yeah.
Can you, connect the dots? What happens in the real world when that yuan fluctuates?
Yeah. So let's stick with our smartphone, right?
Okay.
A strong yuan, that means that your dollar, it just doesn't go as far when you're buying those Chinese goods.
Oh, okay.
Remember back in 2015?
Yeah.
When China devalued its currency by about 2%?
Yeah.
That sent shockwaves.
It really did.
Yeah, I remember that.
Through global markets.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, those smartphones, right?
Yeah.
More expensive for us over here.
Right.
And companies, even some big companies, saw their profits shrink. Just because of that change.
It's crazy.
It was a huge reminder that all this stuff is, interconnected.
Totally.
Yeah.
So if a strong yuan makes imports more expensive, does that mean it also swings the other way?
Absolutely.
Affecting countries trying to sell to China? 100%, yeah.
Okay.
So a strong yuan can make American products, for example, a lot more pricey over in China, right?
Right.
So that could hurt businesses here who are trying to, compete in that market.
Right.
It's a real balancing act.
Yeah.
Because on one hand, a strong currency, that's usually a sign of a healthy economy, right?
Right.
But if it gets too strong, it can really hurt your exports.
Yeah.
So it's a constant point of discussion and debate, even among policymakers.
For sure. And we've talked about the direct impact of China's economy, but what about those less obvious factors, like global perception?
Right.
How does investor confidence play into all of this?
Oh, it's huge.
Really?
Absolutely massive.
Well,
think about it this way, right? If they're looking at China and they're seeing this economy that's continuing to grow, they're more likely to pour money into it, right?
Totally.
Chinese companies, Chinese assets, whatever it is. That influx of investment, it increases demand for the yuan, right? Which makes it stronger.
I see. Yeah.
So it's kind of
a self-fulfilling prophecy. Almost.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Positive sentiment leading to a strong currency, which then further boosts confidence, right? But
always a but, right?
There's always a but. If that investor confidence in China's economy, let's say it dips a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Maybe because of, some concerns about government policies or, things slow down a little bit in manufacturing, investors might get a little spooked,
right.
Start pulling back. And then what happens? That can actually lead to a weaker yuan.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Which, that makes those Chinese goods cheaper for us. But it could also be a sign of some, underlying economic issues.
It's amazing how all of these forces are just in constant flux, all kind of pushing and pulling on each other.
Totally. And as we look ahead, there's all these other things to think about, right? Renewable energy, countries and companies are thinking about diversifying their supply chains. And then, of course, global trade policies, which are always changing.
Always evolving, yeah.
So it makes you think, how will China navigate these big changes,
Right.
to maintain that economic influence? And how's it going to impact, this kind of delicate dance of global currencies?
That's something to think about.
Makes you think, right?
Yeah. Makes you think.